Welcome to Local Edition. My name is Brad Pomerance. We're in Sacramento today in the Capitol Bureau. It's my pleasure to have Jerry McNerney join us on our program. He is a member of the U.S. Congress, and boy, what a difference a year makes. Look at this map. This is how we were facing drought last year, and this is this year. Huge portions of our state are not in drought. And you represent significant portions of this area. How is it, sir?
Well, it's good to see this new rain. What is about 5-year drought, and
Right.
you can see by the darkness of those colors how severe it was. Some communities were cut off of water almost completely.
Right.
So it's quite a relief. But the problem is that it looks like this may be the new normal, these long-term severe droughts. So we have to think ahead and start planning and start investing so that we don't have these water wars, so that we have different stakeholders cooperating in terms of how we use our water. And the state agencies and the federal agencies have done a very good job of allocating what little water we had. But I think we could do much better in terms of planning, in terms of storage, in terms of how water is allocated.
Right, and here's the kind of tragedy of this map, is that Northern California looks great, Southern California continues to be in drought, and when you talk about water wars, who are the wars between? North and South. And we see that, you know, the top of the state out of drought, the bottom of the state in significant drought.
Well, we have to look at the state as one unit.
Okay.
And we certainly have a responsibility to make sure that the whole state has the water that it needs. Now, unfortunately, no matter how much water is diverted to Southern California, there's going to be a demand for more. So we have to be judicious in terms of how we plan and how we work together to make sure that we don't end up fighting over scarce resources and hurting one community at the advantage of another.
So let's talk about getting water to Southern California, because a lot of that water will come through the Delta. You represent significant portions of the Delta. And in the lame duck session of the federal Congress, there was a grand bargain. Senator Dianne Feinstein, a Democrat, and Congressman Kevin McCarthy, Majority Leader, a Republican, came together, and they added language to a bigger bill known as the Water Resources Development Act that allows for more pumping out of the Delta. That caused a lot of heartache for many folks, including former Senator Boxer and Jerry McNerney.
That's right. Unfortunately, what this bill does is it weakens the Endangered Species Act sufficiently and gives the people who operate the pumps mandates in terms of how and when to ship water. Now, what we'd like to see is that the science controls the process. If species are going extinct, if fishermen on the coast are going to be seeing their livelihoods diminished, then we have a problem. If salt water intrudes in dry years and we're not able to push it back with the heavy flow in the wet years, then we get salt water in our farms in our region. So
Right.
We don't want to see pumping that's regulated by legislation. We want to see it regulated by science.
The challenge becomes, with the new administration in Washington, you have federal regulators, presumably, that are a bit skeptical of science, if I can say that, a bit skeptical of the cause of the drought. President Trump during the campaign did not believe the drought was caused by climatic changes, but man-made. And so how do you work with this new administration that may see the drought or the former drought differently?
Well, we certainly have a challenge in that regard. I think it doesn't matter what the cause of the drought is in terms of how we deal with it. It's in terms of how we plan ahead. But I think what we need to do is show a more comprehensive approach that includes encouraging recycling, encouraging water use efficiency, encourages stormwater capture in urban and suburban areas, encourages infrastructure repair so that we don't have leakage from our pipes.
Well, there's no question that the voters of California agreed back in 2014 by passing Proposition 1, a $7.545 billion bond. Not a lot of spending on it yet, but we're getting there.
Right.
But there was money for a lot of the projects you've just described. But we also have the current governor, Jerry Brown, who's looking at what's called the Delta Fix or the California Water Fix. It's not the Bay Delta Conservation Plan, it's a different plan. And we're back at looking at building tunnels under the Sacramento River, bypassing the Delta, as a way to deliver more water to, I guess, Central and Southern California. Help me through your concerns, if any, of the Delta Fix.
Well, this is massive tunnels, two 40-foot tunnels. So these are massive tunnels, more than enough capacity to drain the entire Sacramento River. So it's a real concern. Now,
right.
The thing is that the plan would spend at least $20 billion, probably more, to develop this piping and this infrastructure. Whereas if we use that money to develop recycling, to fix the existing pipage so we don't have leakage, to capture urban stormwater runoff, if we look at the energy-water nexus so that we understand where our energy and water are going so we can become more efficient, we can create about 14 million acre-feet of new water a year instead of relying on the old way of just taking Delta water.
Right, but could one argue that if we added these tunnels, there would be protections for some of the things that concern you? Seawater intrusion, protecting species, if they're developed in such a way that will address your concerns?
Well, the
it's
argument,
complicated.
No, you're right. It is complicated. The argument is that they'll have enough operating parameters and operating guidelines so that the problems that you've discussed won't happen. But we've seen in Congress that there's powerful money behind the idea of shipping more water to Southern California, powerful political interests. And they have overridden the Endangered Species Act just this last year, just in the Water Act that you already spoke about. So I don't have confidence that those tunnels wouldn't be used to harm the Delta.
But in terms of the Endangered Species Act, the courts have been very firm in protecting species. Do you believe that the new language will cause the courts to interpret the Endangered Species Act differently than they have been?
Oh, yes.
You are.
What the new language does in this bill is it adds operational flexibility. In other words, the key word is flexibility. Now, in the Endangered Species Act is controlled by biological opinions that don't allow behaviors that will threaten species. So what this does, it gives them flexibility to manage water flow in a way that could threaten endangered species. So it's a change.
So what can you do, what can your colleagues do to try to protect these species, the salmon, the smelt, whatever it may be?
Well, what I'd like to do, and I have a comprehensive water bill that I'm going to be proposing in another month or so with a Senate colleague, will get all stakeholders interested because it puts money into developing the infrastructure we need to reduce dependence on Delta water, reduce dependence on Colorado River water. In other words, it'll change the direction of water policy in this country to become more regionally self-sufficient and more efficient in water use and water policy.
These are interesting times indeed. His name is Jerry McNerney. He is a member of the United States Congress representing significant portions of the beautiful Delta region of California. My name is Brad Pomerance in Sacramento. This is Local Edition.